Buying in Manhattan is tougher than anywhere else in the country. High prices, competitive bidding, strict co-op boards, and so much more. The good news is that you as a home buyer have incredible leverage in this real estate market, and working with an agent who understands this kind of market is your ultimate competitive advantage. So in this video, we're going to talk about the 4 biggest leverage points that buyers have right now in the New York City market and how you can use them. I'm Dewey Moss. I'm a New York City real estate agent, and I help buyers like you buy smarter and avoid costly mistakes. Please take a moment to like, subscribe, and hit that notification button, and let's get started. So the Manhattan real estate market is shifting and inventory is rising, but we are seeing inventory stay on the market a bit longer. So sellers are having to negotiate a bit more than they're used to. And that doesn't mean that every listing is a great deal, but a savvy buyer is going to understand how to seize the opportunities that are out there. So let's dive into these 4 leverage points and how you can use them to your advantage. Leverage point number 1 is time on the market. Now, days on market always says something about a unit. However, in New York City, that does come with a bit of a caveat because it takes much longer to close on apartments here in the city. Sometimes it can take up to 3 to 4 months, particularly on a co-op. So if a team has had 1 or 2 deals fall through, that adds an immense amount of time to days on market. So days on market are not always created equal. However, if a seller has had 1 or 2 deals fall through and has spent all that time on the market, or have had no deals and have spent a long time on the market, that's going to give you an indication of how negotiable they may be. So days on market definitely factors in as a leverage point for any savvy buyer. Leverage point number 2 is seller psychology and circumstances. Behind every seller, there's a story. If you've ever sold a place, you certainly know that. Some people are relocating and need to get to another place for a job. Some people have already bought a new place, and we don't really do contingency sales in New York City, so they need to get out of their other apartment. Some investors are just cashing in. So the circumstances will always be an indication of how negotiable these sellers are. So you and your agent should try to find out these motivations as much as possible, because that will help you understand where your leverage lies. So first we had time on market. Second, we have seller motivation, and both of those help you understand how flexible the seller really is. The third leverage point is neighborhood and pricing trends. Now this is where your agent really needs to show you some data and understand the market that you're buying in. Not all leverage is the same across Manhattan. People tend to think of Manhattan as being one location, but in fact it's divided up into many neighborhoods, and each of those neighborhoods, and in fact the streets in their neighborhoods and the buildings, the individual buildings in their neighborhoods, are all going to have different leverage factors to go into this. So you must consider the building. Remember, we are a vertical market, and what's going on in the building is the primary data point that you must understand as a buyer. So with that said, there are some neighborhoods that may be pricing differently, a little bit lower. There are some buildings in those neighborhoods from building to building that may have different leverage points. So you really need to take a deep dive into the data of the neighborhoods, compare them, and then compare the buildings to understand where those leverage opportunities may lie for you. Okay, so far we've covered time on market, seller motivation, and neighborhood trends and pricing. And if you start putting those together, you can start spotting the opportunities before your competition does. And the number 4 leverage point is cash versus financing. Now, I'm sure that you've heard the term that cash is king, and particularly in New York City, there are a lot of cash offers. But that is not the end of the story, and that's what buyers don't understand. Even though somebody may be offering cash, a buyer that is financing may actually have the stronger offer, and it doesn't even necessarily mean the number that's being offered. Understand that co-ops and condos have financial criteria, especially co-ops, which make up about 80 to 85% of the inventory in New York City. If you do not meet that financial criteria, or if the rules and regulations of the building do not meet your needs, for example, if you're buying a second residence, but maybe the building doesn't allow people to have second residences there, then you are wasting your time as a buyer, and it doesn't matter if you're buying cash or if you're buying with financing. Many cash buyers come in and think that they'll be able to get past those rules, or maybe their debt to income ratio can be higher simply because they're offering cash in a fast deal. Co-ops do not bend their rules, although many have flexible rules. But if they have set rules, they do not bend those just for a cash offer. So cash is always preferred, of course, but the buyer must meet all of that criteria as well. But if the buyer with the financing option is a better fit for the co-op, that's the person that's going to win. So whether or not you're buying with cash or financing, you as a buyer need to make sure that your financial package showing all of your information is going to meet the criteria of the co-op or the condo board. If you do that, you will be competitive in this market where many people are not. So here's the big picture. Buyer leverage in Manhattan comes in the form of days on market, seller motivation, understanding neighborhood and pricing trends, and then how you structure your offer. If you use all of these smartly, you'll have the opportunity to save thousands, and you'll also avoid losing out on that apartment home that you really want. If you're really serious about buying in Manhattan, download my buyer's cheat sheet you can access at the link below. And if you're ready to start your search, I work with exclusive clients. You can certainly book a call with me and let's discuss how I can help. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button to stay up to date with the weekly videos that we're releasing on this channel all about Manhattan real estate. And I'll see you next time.